everyone, it is Jazz here, and welcome to the February wrap-up / recommendations video. So I only finished 3 books this month, so because 2 of those books are actually classic books, and I know those aren't for everyone to recommend them, although I do recommend them, I'm going to go ahead and review all 3 books because it's only 3 books. Let's do the quick rundown of what I read and the ratings, and then we'll get into those reviews. So first, I completed North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I gave this 5 stars. Then I completed the annotated edition of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This I also gave 5 stars. And lastly, I completed an audiobook, and that audiobook was My Pear-Shaped Life by Carmel Harrington. And that one I gave 4.5 stars. First, let's discuss my experience rereading North and South and all my little thoughty thoughts on the reread. So if you don't know North and South, this is a somewhat lesser known classic novel. I feel like it is lesser known in my opinion. And it centers around a character named Margaret Hale who has grown up in the southern part of England, but due to some changes happening in her family, she and her father and mother end up moving to northern England, which is a more industrial area of England. Culture clash becomes an issue for Margaret in this time of moving. The other point of view that this book follows is Mr. Thornton, who is the head of one of the industrial enterprises in this novel, and he and Margaret find themselves in I don't know what to call their relationship. It's not really enemies to lovers. It's not really rivals to lovers, because that's not what they really are. They just disagree initially on a lot of key points because they come from 2 different worlds, if you will. So I guess it's a different worlds, 2 lovers relationship. So I'm gonna be honest, the first time I read this book, I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as I love the miniseries based on it, because that is just greatest of all time. And so while I did enjoy it, I was just oh, well, I read it. I can say that I read it. But upon a reread, I enjoyed this a heck ton more. I don't know if it's because it's not as much work for me now to read classic novels, or if it's because I understood more about the historical background of the book in terms of Victorian experiences in the time period, as well as just maybe some of the issues that were going on with, the lower class characters and the upper class characters, and how class is viewed, and how even just the dynamic of the locations is. I think maybe I just had more understanding of it and was able to not just be invested in the 2 main characters, but be more invested in the actual discussions in the book about those deep sort of elements that are really integral to the story, and I think to what Elizabeth Gaskell is trying to say with the novel. And I think I just find stuff like that more interesting than I did in my teens and 20s. But I do honestly think that I saw more investment in the actual relationship between Margaret and Mr. Thornton. I don't know. I found them even more adorable upon a second read. I cannot explain why. I think it's because it's one of what I think they call in the romance genres a he falls first story. So he definitely falls in love first. And so it's just really so cute. In terms of accessibility, I think this is a pretty accessible classic novel. If you don't read a lot of classic novels, or you're looking to start to read classic novels for fun in your free time, this might be one that you want to pick up. It does have some kind of vocabulary that maybe people wouldn't use very often anymore, but not so much so that you get bogged down by it. And the plot and the description and the writing style is pretty straightforward, which I think newer to classic books people would appreciate. However, like I said, you do probably want a semi-interest in discussions about classism and industrialism. I honestly wish this was like a bigger classic in the classic book circle. Like, I would love for that to happen because I think this is a really valuable one. And if you also took any interest in this, I would definitely highly recommend you check out North and South. Next, let's talk about my second reread, which was my reread of Wuthering Heights in the annotated edition. I had to go look up a summary for this because I do not know how to summarize Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte is a Gothic novel that follows the anti-hero Heathcliff as he gets revenge on the people who kept him away from his love, Cathy Earnshaw. I am willing to debate the idea that Heathcliff is an anti-hero because I think that he's a straight-up villain. I will be the first to admit that Wuthering Heights is not for the faint of heart, and it is not for everyone, for sure. It is an acquired taste. However, if you give it a go, I will say that it makes you be in the mood for it. Like, something about it, even though it's dark, it has unlikable characters. It talks about abusive situations. It talks about obsessive situations. It is just really dense in terms of its focuses and like its psychology. It does somehow make you invested and make you get in the mood for it. It seems like you wouldn't be in the mood for it, but it makes you do it somehow. And I think that is just solely down to Emily Bronte's really excellent writing, the way things are described, and like I said, the psychology of the characters themselves. They're all really, really problematic. Even the fairly nice ones are problematic. And I think it's just a testament that, like, we're all problematic as people, but some, like Cathy and Heathcliff, are more than others. This is the revenge book to rival all revenge books. If you like a revenge novel, you will probably enjoy this because I don't think anybody exacts revenge as like obsessively and as like pinpointed to direct it towards people as Heathcliff. Also, if you like weird dark romance, gothic romance for sure, this one's also probably up your alley. As for the actual annotated edition, this thing is invaluable. While I enjoyed my read of Wuthering Heights the first time, it is immensely better if you acquire the annotated edition. First of all, you really do, for this one, need a lot of historical background because though this was published in Victorian era, I did discover that not unlike Jane Eyre, this is sort of set in late Georgian era, you know, the Regency period for a lot of it. And so just to kind of know some of the like inconsistencies with laws and stuff, because obviously Emily Bronte is writing it in Victorian era, there can be a little bit of that going on, but also just kind of to know the backstory on those particular time periods can help with the understanding of the novel in a greater way. There is a character named Joseph that speaks in a really, really strong dialect. So strong that apparently even Charlotte Bronte, who wrote the foreword and edited the second edition of Wuthering Heights, said that she was like going to make a few adjustments to Joseph's dialogue just because she thought no one would understand it. So I thought, oh, I don't have to feel bad that the first time I read this, I never understood what this character was saying just because his dialect is so strong. Great, Emily, for getting the location and the character development right. But on the other side don't know what this man is saying. And the great thing about the annotated edition is that the annotator does actually write out his dialogue in just like plain, straightforward English. This edition's also pretty fun if you just like knowing like backstory on authors or just knowing little facts about where the inspiration for certain things came from. I do tend to warn people that with annotated editions, sometimes there are light spoilers for the book. So if you're reading it for the first time, sometimes that can happen because they are explaining the themes of novels. But I did notice that with this annotated edition, there weren't very many things that were actually spoilers that you would like actually understand if you didn't already know the story. So I think you would probably be okay to read this for the first time in an annotated edition without getting spoiled on any plot if you didn't know anything previously about it. That being said, highly recommend people check out this in an annotated edition if you are going to read it. Like I said, it's probably not the book for everyone, but if you like anything that I said about the book, you definitely should give it a go. It's not as accessible as, say, like a North and South or a Pride and Prejudice, but it is not the most difficult classic that I've ever read, if that makes sense. So, on to My Pear-Shaped Life. So, this is a book that is set in, initially set in Ireland. It follows a young woman who is about 25, kind of mid-20s, Greta Gale, and Greta is really struggling with her acting career, with body image issues, and most particularly with an addiction to sleeping pills. And she is finding that all these things are really kind of shutting down her life and career and her relationships. So the book follows her, first of all, through kind of overcoming these obstacles that she has found herself confronting, but also there's a bit of a road trip element to this because her favorite uncle ends up taking her on this road trip so that she can meet her favorite motivational speaker that also has the same name, Greta Gale. And the story has this really nice, fun callback to the Wizard of Oz books because obviously the last name is Gale. And it kind of follows that concept that Wizard of Oz, especially the movie, really follows, which is that, you know, all the things that you're longing for and you've been wishing for are all kind of inside your heart already and might also just be right in front of you. Now, I wasn't really sure what I felt about this book, and I think the only reason that was because I don't think the summary or like the marketing of the book cover really gives you a concept of what this book actually is. I feel like the American book cover, the audiobook cover that I have, basically makes it look like a romance, which it has a romance in it, but it's not a romance. And I feel like the UK cover gives you absolutely no idea what the book kind of genre it is, and so that doesn't help. And I don't think the summary really gives you enough to really glean what the book is about either. But the novel really did grow on me once I found out that it was basically stuff that I already really enjoy, which is unlikely friendship, family ties, a road trip, because I love a good road trip, and just also being able to discuss serious topics but have a balance where you don't lose the gravitas of the serious topics, but you don't go so far into discussing them in this really nihilistic, depressing way that it becomes a depressing book. There's a lot of hope and uplift and like silver linings to finding out that like maybe things aren't going as planned, but you can still overcome the obstacles that you have. And that's always a message that I really appreciate. Now, that being said, I will give a little trigger warning for this. If you really struggle with hearing about addiction topics, or if you struggle with discussions about weight, this might not be the book for you. I did want to give that little warning addendum for this book because that is definitely an element of this story. However, if you really just like sort of what I'm going to call coming of age novels for grown-ups, this one probably is one that you might enjoy for sure. The characters are fun, and it does have kind of a cute friends to lovers romance inserted in there as well. So if that is your vibe, that might be something that you enjoy as well. If you do have an inclination to have a hopeful yet nice deep discussion about maybe some deeper issues that is still fairly lighthearted in its tone, I think that this one will probably be something that you might want to give it a try. That's it for my February recommendations. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you have anything fun to say, please drop a comment down below. That is it for today, my fabulous people. I will see you all later. Bye!